The sharp buzz of clippers sliced through the sterile silence of the school nurse's office, each vibration sending a tremor through the air and deeper into the girl's chest. Skylar Monroe sat frozen in the cold vinyl chair, her hands clutched into trembling fists inside the pockets of her navy hoodie. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely more than breath. "Please stop." Across from her stood Ms. Beckley, her teacher, her tormentor, with a grin carved of cruelty. Each snip from the electric clippers sent braided extensions tumbling to the floor like tiny pieces of Skylar's identity being stripped away. The girl's chest tightened as another chunk fell. Each braid, each lock of carefully protected hair, was more than appearance. It was part of her pride, part of her culture, part of her defense in a world that rarely offered shelter. Ms. Beckley stepped closer, lifting Skylar's hood to reveal the untouched crown of her head, ready for the next assault. That's when it happened. A thunderous cadence of boots echoed down the hallway. Sharp, steady, deliberate. The nurse's door burst open so violently that the clipboard on the wall crashed to the floor. A woman in a pressed military uniform filled the frame, chest adorned with medals that shimmered under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Hands off my daughter," the woman said, her voice like a blade sliding from its sheath. Lieutenant Colonel Camille Monroe didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The air itself seemed to obey her command. Ms. Beckley froze mid-gesture, the clippers still humming in her hand, but now trembling. Her confident smirk vanished, replaced by a wide-eyed expression of disbelief, confusion, and fear. Skylar's heart thundered, but for the first time that day, it didn't feel like helpless terror. It felt like hope. The room was utterly still. Even the fluorescent lights, buzzing moments ago, seemed to flicker in reverence to the silence. The humming clippers finally died as Ms. Beckley shut them off with a nervous flick of her thumb. She stepped back, stammering, This isn't what it looks like. I was just enforcing dress code policy. It's not personal." Colonel Monroe took one step forward, her boots hitting the linoleum like a gavel slamming judgment into the floor. "Policy," she repeated coolly. "A documented medical exemption isn't a loophole for your prejudice." Skylar dared to glance at her reflection in the mirror across the room. Her scalp, partially exposed, looked raw and red. The rest of her protective style lay in uneven remnants, fallen braids strewn like casualties of war. But as her mother moved toward her, arms open and steady, Skylar found her shoulders lifting, just slightly. Ms. Beckley's skin had gone pale, her voice crumbling under the weight of accountability. "I didn't know. I mean, no one told me." "We did tell you," Camille interrupted. 3 times. You received an email from the district nurse. You received a letter from her doctor. You received a voicemail from me. You ignored them all. The intercom above them crackled. "Colonel Monroe, please report to my office immediately," came the voice of Principal Robert Calloway, taut with urgency. "And kindly refrain from further theatrics." Camille's eyes flicked toward her daughter, silently asking, "You ready?" Skylar stood slowly, her knees still unsteady, but her chin a little higher. She brushed a trembling hand along the remnants of her braids and nodded. Together, they walked down the hallway, passing curious students, stunned teachers, and administrative staff who had heard the commotion but were unsure how to respond. Whispers followed them like shadows, but Skylar didn't care. She had been humiliated in front of her peers, but now, she was walking beside a force no one dared question. Maya, the only friend Skylar had managed to make in her few weeks at Lakeside Middle, watched through the glass pane of her classroom. Her eyes filled with tears, and she pressed her palm against the window in silent solidarity. Skylar gave her a nod, a simple gesture that said, "I'm still here." Inside the principal's office, the conversation escalated quickly. "It's a PR nightmare," Principal Calloway said, pacing behind his desk. "You barged into a secure schoolroom, confronted a staff member, and—" Camille laid a thick manila folder on his desk without waiting for him to finish. Inside, Skylar signed medical exemption from her dermatologist, a timeline of the school's failure to accommodate her, a statement from her doctor, a voicemail transcription, and video footage Maya took on her phone. Every single step documented. Principal Calloway's face reddened as he scanned the pages. "This isn't about public relations," Camille continued. "It's about a child's rights." Skylar stood behind her mother, hands gripping the back of a leather chair. The cool air from the office vent swept over her bare scalp, and though she felt exposed, she also felt a new kind of fire beginning to burn in her chest. By evening, news of the incident had begun to spread, first among students, then parents, then local social media accounts. Maya's group chat was the first to light up. Rally tomorrow 5 p.m. Bring signs. Bring voices. She's not alone. Former classmates messaged Skylar privately, sharing their own stories of being reprimanded for natural hairstyles, of teachers mocking their headscarves, of silent detentions that no one questioned. The next afternoon, a crowd formed outside Lakeside Middle. At first, it was a few students, then parents, then alumni, activists, teachers from other schools, community leaders. Hand-painted signs rose above the heads of the crowd. Justice for Skylar. My hair, my culture, my right. Stop hair discrimination in schools. Skylar stood beside her parents, trembling again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was power. She spotted Ms. Beckley watching from a second-floor window, her face pale, her arms crossed tightly. There was no smile now, just the weight of reckoning. The makeshift stage was a set of cafeteria tables pushed together. A student organizer handed Camille the microphone. She stepped forward. "This is not just about my daughter," Camille said, her voice amplified across the courtyard. "This is about every child whose identity has been policed, punished, or erased by outdated rules cloaked in the language of policy." The crowd fell into deep, attentive silence. Skylar looked up at her mother, eyes burning with pride. She felt the weight of the day, the trauma, the humiliation, but she also felt something larger swelling in its place. A movement, a tide turning. After the rally, Skylar returned to the classroom. Her desk sat untouched, her art supplies still scattered from earlier that week. She opened her sketchbook and stared at the half-finished drawing. A hallway crumbling at the edges, students walking through its cracks. She picked up a pencil and drew something new. A bald girl standing beneath a blossoming tree. Storms circling above her, but none touching her. Roots growing from her bare feet into the ground, steady and defiant. Each stroke of graphite was a reclamation. Every color she added was a declaration. You didn't break me. You revealed me. Meanwhile, the school board convened. Behind closed doors, Camille waited in the hallway, documents in hand. Lawyers whispered. Board members shifted uncomfortably. Skylar paced outside the chamber, her sneakers squeaking faintly on the marble floor. Finally, the doors creaked open. Camille entered alone, sliding a single document onto the dais, Ms. Beckley's personnel file. Prior complaints. Unresolved incidents. The nurse's own report, filed late and altered. Silence fell like a weighted blanket. Then Camille added one more item. A petition signed by over 18,000 students, parents, and advocates demanding changes to the school's grooming and dress code policies. When she exited, her eyes met Skylar's. "It's done," she said softly. Outside, the late afternoon sun stretched golden beams across the school's brick walls. Skylar stood still, letting the light soak her exposed scalp. She closed her eyes, feeling warmth where hours ago she had felt only shame. She opened them again and spoke, not loudly, but with the certainty of someone who had rediscovered her voice. "This story isn't over," she said. "It's just the beginning." That night, as the headlines spread across media outlets, and the school board scrambled to draft revised policies, and Principal Calloway nervously scheduled a press conference, Skylar returned to her sketchpad. She added one final image. A girl, bald, proud, standing at the front steps of her school, surrounded by rising sun and thousands of unseen voices standing behind her. Her caption, "Let them hear us now."